In the endless dark of the Epsilon Rift, where suns were cold and light itself seemed to die, the Varelian star drifted through the void. It was a scavenger ship, old and patched together from the bones of forgotten wars. Its crew of 6 lived off what others had left behind: wreckage, scrap, drifting cargo. But on this day the scanners picked up something strange. "Something alive, Captain," said Nara, the ship's sensor operator, her voice sharp with disbelief. "I'm getting a biological reading." "Very faint." Captain Thalos turned from the viewport. His scaled face reflected the dim green lights of the bridge. A scar ran from his chin to his left eye, a souvenir from a war he never talked about. "Out here?" "That's impossible." Nara swallowed hard. "It's not a mistake, sir. The signal's weak, but it's definitely a life form." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. The Epsilon Rift was a graveyard of ships and ghosts. Nothing living had ever been found here. "Show me," Thalos ordered. The main display flickered to life, showing the object, small, spinning slowly against the black. At first glance it looked like debris, maybe a pressure suit or a burnt-out drone. But as the ship's light beam swept across it, the shape became clearer. It was humanoid, a suit dark and scorched, drifting alone in the vacuum. "Could be an escape pod," murmured Keith, the ship's engineer. "Or a corpse." "Lock onto it," Thalos said. "Bring it aboard." Nara hesitated. "Sir, are you sure?" "We don't know what it is. Could be infected tech, a trap." Thalos shot her a look. "That's an order." The retrieval arms extended from the ship's underbelly, slow and mechanical. They reached into the void, gripping the drifting figure and pulling it toward the airlock. As the body came closer, the ship's scanners began to scream softly. A heartbeat detected, slow and fragile. "Life signs confirmed," said the ship's AI, its voice calm and feminine. "Biological entity detected, species. Human, status alive." The bridge fell silent. Keth blinked. "Human? That can't be right." "Humans are extinct." "Check the readings again," Thalos said, his voice low. "No error," replied the AI. "Human detected." For a moment, no one spoke. The words hung in the recycled air like a curse. 2 centuries had passed since the last human war. The species had burned half the galaxy before vanishing in nuclear fire. No human colonies remained. No survivors. Just ruins, and yet one floated outside their ship, alive. "Prepare quarantine in the medbay," Thalos ordered. "We're bringing it in." The crew moved quickly, but no one said much. Even the hum of the engines seemed quieter than usual. When the airlock doors slid open, a cloud of frost drifted in, revealing the floating suit. It was old, older than any of them had ever seen. The surface was scorched, the visor cracked. Symbols no one recognized were etched into the plating, faded letters, numbers, and a small broken flag of blue and white. Nara whispered, That's from Earth, isn't it?" No one answered. Thalos stepped closer, eyes narrowing. The suit's hand twitched, just once, but enough to make everyone freeze. "Still alive," said the AI. Heart rate rising. They moved fast, dragging the figure onto the med table. The ship's lights dimmed as the medical systems activated, scanning the body. The suit hissed, pressurized locks releasing one by one. With a final click, the chest plate opened and a wave of cold air spilled out. Inside was a man, pale, scarred, his hair short and dark, his face lined with exhaustion and frostbite. He looked no older than 30, but his body bore marks of a soldier, burns, implants, and the unmistakable hardness of someone who had seen war. "Vital signs stabilizing," said the AI. "Neural activity detected. Subject is regaining consciousness." The crew stepped back. The man's chest rose sharply. His fingers twitched. Then with a hoarse gasp he opened his eyes. Everyone froze. One eye was human, grey and cold. The other was cybernetic, faintly glowing blue. He looked around, confused, breathing fast, trying to speak. Finally his voice broke through the silence, dry and cracked. "Where am I?" The crew didn't answer. Nara whispered to Thalos, "He speaks Galactic Common." "That's impossible." Thalos stepped closer, his voice steady but cautious. "You are aboard the Varelian star. We found you drifting near the rift. Do you understand me?" The man blinked slowly. He looked around the medbay, at the alien faces staring down at him, at the walls made of metal he didn't recognize. Then he said, "How long?" "Was I out?" The captain hesitated. "We don't know." "Who are you?" The man didn't answer right away. His hand reached toward the cracked helmet lying beside him. Inside, something was scratched into the lining. A name tag, faded but readable. Sea Dr. Elias Ward, Sol Defense Fleet. Thalos read it aloud. Commander Elias Ward. Sol Defense? He frowned. Never heard of it. The man's gaze hardened. You wouldn't have. It was human, silence, Keth muttered. Impossible. The Sol Fleet's been gone for centuries. Elias looked directly at him. Centuries? Nara nodded. It's been over 200 years since the last human signal. The color drained from Elias's face. His eyes darted toward the viewport, toward the distant stars. No, that can't be. The war just started. The fleet was still... He stopped himself, gripping the table, shaking. What year is it? Thalos told him. For a long moment, Elias didn't move. Then he laughed. A low, hollow sound that sent chills through the room. 200 years. I should be dead. You nearly were, said Thalos. Elias turned toward him, his expression shifting from disbelief to something colder, more focused. You said you found me drifting near the rift. Yes, his voice dropped. Then you need to leave now. Thalos frowned. Why? Elias's cybernetic eye flickered. Because if I'm alive, someone will come looking. The room fell quiet again, but this time it wasn't wonder that filled the air. It was fear. Outside the ship, beyond the faint hum of its engines, the darkness stirred. A faint echo pulsed across the scanners. A second signal. Hidden, faint and closing fast, and in that moment, as the crew stared at their mysterious passenger, the Varelian star became the center of a secret, buried for 200 years. The last human had been found, and he wasn't alone. Elias Ward lay in the medbay of the Varelian star, the faint hum of alien machinery surrounding him. His breath came in short bursts as the ship's AI monitored his vitals. Every now and then, his cybernetic eye flickered with data, scanning the room, analyzing voices, shapes, and languages he hadn't heard in centuries. Captain Thalos stood near the doorway, arms crossed, his scales dim under the cold blue light. He'd seen strange things in his life, rogue AI, cosmic storms, ancient wrecks, but nothing like this. A living human, the species that once nearly destroyed the galaxy. The one every Varelian child grew up fearing in bedtime stories. He's stable, said Nara quietly, eyes fixed on the monitor. Heart rate consistent. No sign of infection or decay, Keth snorted. 200 years adrift and he's stable? That's not natural. Nothing about him is natural, Thalos replied. He stepped closer to the table. Wake him. Nara hesitated, then adjusted the med controls. A soft hiss filled the room as a dose of stim gas flowed through Elias's lungs. The man stirred, eyes fluttering open. He blinked, disoriented. The cybernetic one glowed faintly, reacting to the ship's environment. His voice came out hoarse. Where am I? On board the Varelian star, Thalos said. You were found drifting near the Epsilon Rift. We revived you. Elias's breathing steadied. Varelian, he muttered, as if tasting the word. So the war is over then. The human war ended over 2 centuries ago, said Thalos. Your people lost, or vanished. The records differ. Elias didn't respond. His gaze drifted to the ceiling, as though searching for something that wasn't there. I don't remember losing. You wouldn't, said Keth bitterly. Your kind burned half the spiral arm before you disappeared. Elias turned his head toward him, the faintest hint of a smile curling on his lips. And yet here I am, still breathing. Thalos silenced Keth with a glance. Commander Ward, we need answers. How did you survive? Elias sat up slowly, ignoring the cables attached to him. Cryostasis. Emergency pod malfunctioned during combat. Last thing I remember was the Aegis Dawn under attack. I launched from the hangar, took heavy damage, and then... Nothing. The Aegis Dawn? Nara asked. That ship doesn't exist in any archive. It wouldn't, Elias said quietly. She was part of the Sol Defense Fleet. Classified operations. You shouldn't even know her name. We don't, Thalos replied. You told us. For a moment, only the hum of the life support systems filled the silence. Then Elias asked the question that had been haunting him since he woke. What happened to Earth? Thalos hesitated. Nara pulled up a holographic display. A series of old recordings appeared. Burning cities, shattered continents, radio silence. The final image was a broken sphere of rock and metal drifting near a dying sun. "It's gone," she said softly. Elias stared at the projection, unblinking. His jaw tightened, but no words came. The silence stretched, heavy and cold. Finally, he whispered, "Then there's nothing left." Thalos said, "The galaxy moved on. Empires rose and fell. Humanity became a story." Elias closed his eyes. "We weren't supposed to die out. We had backup colonies, sleeper fleets. There were plans. If there were, they failed," Thalos interrupted. "You're the last one we've ever seen." The man's cybernetic eye dimmed, and for a brief second he looked lost, just a soldier who had outlived everything he'd fought for. But then something changed in his expression. He straightened his back, voice firmer. "Then I need access to your communications array." Keth barked out a laugh. "What for?" "There's no one left to call." Elias looked straight at him. "You're wrong." His tone carried a weight that made even Thalos pause. "I sent a distress beacon before my pod shut down. If the network still exists, someone will hear it." Thalos frowned. "There are no human networks left. Then how did you find me?" Elias shot back. The captain didn't answer. Instead, he looked toward Nara, who was checking the scanners. "Captain," she said suddenly, her voice trembling, "we've got movement. Explain." "Something's following us." A faint signal, no transponder, no identification. "It's been shadowing us since the rift." The air in the medbay seemed to grow colder. Elias's mechanical eye flashed blue. "Show me." The holographic display lit up with a blurry reading. A ship, small, fast, and cloaked in some kind of energy field. Elias's face went pale. "That's not alien tech," he said. "That's human." Thalos stared at him. "Human? But there are no—" "There are," Elias interrupted. "Or at least, there were." His voice dropped lower. "That ship belongs to Project Revenant. I thought it was destroyed." "Project what?" asked Nara. "A black operation," Elias said. "Designed to hunt survivors of the old fleets. If they're still operating after 200 years." He didn't finish. Thalos gritted his teeth. "They're coming for you." "No," Elias said grimly. "They're coming to erase me. To erase what I know." "And what is that?" Thalos asked. Elias looked up, the light from his cybernetic eye reflecting in the captain's own. "That humanity didn't die. We went into hiding. For a long moment no one spoke. The AI broke the silence with its calm, mechanical voice. "Incoming transmission. Unknown source. Message repeats, return the subject or be destroyed." The crew froze. Outside, the stars shifted as the approaching ship dropped its cloak, revealing the angular lines of a long-lost design. Human warship architecture. Black as shadow, marked with the faded emblem of a burning sun. The crew of the Varelian star stared in horror. "That's impossible," whispered Nara. Elias's hand clenched around the edge of the table. "It's not impossible," he said. "It's human." And as the warship's weapons began to charge, the survivors of one extinct species and the remnants of another realized that the quiet salvage mission had become something much larger, a war that refused to stay buried. The human had been found, and now others knew it too. The Varelian star trembled as the human warship appeared from the void, its black hull absorbing every ray of light. It was shaped like a blade, thin and sharp, cutting through the darkness with silent menace. The alien crew stared at the sight in disbelief. No one spoke. Even the ship's AI hesitated before reporting, "Hostile vessel detected. Design, human origin. Weapon systems online." Captain Thalos stood frozen on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the dark silhouette outside the viewport. "Human origin," he repeated slowly, his voice tight. "How can that be?" Elias Ward stood beside him, still pale but alert. His cybernetic eye glowed with a cold blue light, scanning the enemy ship's signature. "It's not just human," he said. "It's one of ours. A Revenant-class stealth frigate. Model X-92. I served under the program that built it." Thalos turned sharply toward him. "Then you know what it's capable of." "Yes," Elias said grimly. "It was designed for one thing, termination of survivors." "Survivors?" Nara asked. "Survivors of what?" "The war," Elias replied. "When the last human governments collapsed, the Revenant program went rogue. It was meant to keep order. But they began hunting their own. Anyone who refused to merge with the machines. His gaze drifted back to the viewport, watching the shadowed vessel drift closer. If they've survived 200 years, that means one thing. They've evolved. The AI interrupted. Incoming transmission. The voice that filled the bridge was cold and distorted, mechanical yet eerily human. Virelian vessel, you are in possession of restricted property belonging to the Soul Continuum. Release the subject immediately or face destruction. Thalos clenched his jaw. This is Captain Thalos of the Virelian Star. Identify yourself. The voice replied, identity irrelevant. You have 60 seconds to comply. The transmission cut. The bridge filled with tense silence. They're serious, Keth muttered, his hands gripping the console. They'll blow us apart. Elias turned to Thalos. You need to run now. We can't outrun them, Thalos snapped. Not in open space. Then use the rift, Elias said. The nebula field. It scrambles scanners. Nara's eyes widened. That place will fry our engines. Better fried engines than death, Elias said. Trust me. For a moment, Thalos hesitated, torn between reason and instinct. Then he gave the order. Helm, prepare evasive course. Full thrust toward the Epsilon rift. The engines roared to life, and the Virelian Star turned sharply, plunging toward the glowing storms of the nebula ahead. The enemy frigate moved instantly, firing a pulse beam that seared past their hull, close enough to shake the entire ship. Shields at 70%, Nara shouted. They're targeting our engines. Divert power to thrusters, Thalos commanded. Elias, get to engineering. Help Keth with the power reroute. Elias didn't argue. He sprinted down the narrow corridor, his boots echoing against the metal floor. Every vibration of the ship told him the enemy was closing in. He'd fought these ships before. He knew how relentless they were. In the engine room, sparks flew as Keth struggled to stabilize the reactor output. We're overheating, he shouted. If I push more power, we'll blow the coils. Then let me do it, Elias said, already tearing open a panel. His hands moved fast, precise. The others watched as he bypassed safety circuits, using human logic patterns the alien systems weren't designed to handle. How are you doing that? Keth demanded. Because your tech was built from ours, Elias muttered. You just didn't know it. The ship lurched violently as another blast struck their hull. Alarms wailed. Hull breach on deck 3, the AI warned. Seal off affected sections. Thalos's voice crackled over the comms. Elias, we're running out of time. Almost there. Elias slammed a final switch. Now go full burn. The engines screamed, and the Virelian Star shot forward, diving into the thick violet fog of the rift. The scanners went wild, static and distortion flooding every system. The enemy's targeting locks broke. They've lost visual, Nara cried. They can't see us. Thalos exhaled, relief barely audible. Maintain course. Low emissions only. The ship drifted deeper into the nebula, surrounded by clouds of charged plasma and lightning that danced across the hull like spectral fire. Inside, tension lingered like a shadow. Elias leaned against the engine console, sweat running down his temples. That won't hold them off for long, he said quietly. They'll try to reacquire once the interference fades. Then we'll stay hidden, Thalos said. Elias shook his head. You don't understand. Revenants don't stop. They were programmed to finish every target. If I'm alive, they'll chase me across the galaxy. Why? Thalos asked. Elias hesitated, then answered, Because I have something inside me they want. He tapped his temple. Data, military archives, genetic keys, the location of something they were trying to bury forever. And what is that? Thalos asked. Elias met his gaze. The Ark. The name hung in the air like a ghost. What's the Ark? Nara asked softly. Humanity's last refuge, Elias said. A place built to rebuild civilization after the war. If the Revenants are still active, they're protecting it, or keeping it hidden. The captain frowned. You're saying there are more humans out there? Maybe, Elias said. If they survived. The ship's lights flickered suddenly. The AI's voice broke through. Warning, energy spike detected. Unknown source. Thalos's head snapped toward the console. Can you locate it? Negative. Readings unstable. Elias's eye flashed blue as he interfaced with the system. It's them. They're using resonance tracking, locking onto my implant. Can we block it? Not for long. Outside, through the thick mist, a shadow appeared, a dark shape slowly emerging through the nebula's glow. The Revenant frigate had found them. "Brace for impact," Thalos shouted. The ship shuddered as another beam tore through the outer decks. Sparks rained down across the bridge. Elias grabbed the railing, shouting over the alarms, "You have to trust me." "What are you planning?" Thalos demanded. "A jump," Elias said. "Blind jump, short range. It'll tear your drives apart, but it's the only chance." "That's suicide," Keth yelled over comms. "So is waiting," Elias countered. He slammed his hand on the override panel. "Do it now." The captain hesitated for only a second, then roared, "All crew, brace for hyperspace." The stars outside warped into lines of white fire as the Varelian star vanished into the dark. Behind them, the Revenant ship tried to follow, but the rift's gravity tore its cloak apart, sending it spinning into the storm. For now the hunters were gone, but Elias knew they would return. As the Varelian star drifted in the silence of a new sector, the crew looked to him with questions written in their eyes. He didn't speak. He only stared out the viewport, whispering to himself, "They know I'm awake." The Varelian star tumbled out of hyperspace like a wounded animal, sparks trailing from its engines. The hull groaned, metal screaming in protest as the systems flickered back to life. For a few seconds there was only silence. Then the alarms began again. "Engine stability at 20%, Nara shouted from the bridge, her hands flying over the controls. "Power grid fractured, navigation offline." Captain Thalos gritted his teeth. "Shut down non-essential systems. Keep us hidden." Keth's voice came through the comms from the lower decks. "We've got plasma leaks everywhere, Captain. If we don't seal them, the whole aft section will blow." "Do it," Thalos ordered. "Use emergency sealant." He turned toward Elias, who stood near the viewport, pale under the flickering lights. "You said that jump would save us." "It did," Elias replied quietly. "We're alive, aren't we?" Thalos let out a low growl. "Barely. We've lost half our systems." "Better than losing all of them," Elias said. He stared out at the void. The stars here were dimmer, older. "Where are we?" Nara checked the readings. "Unknown coordinates. Somewhere outside mapped space. There's a nebula nearby and... Wait, I'm picking up planetary fragments. Maybe a destroyed system." Elias's cybernetic eye glowed faintly. "Good. That means interference. The Revenant can't track us here, not yet." "Not yet?" Thalos repeated sharply. "You said we lost them." Elias shook his head. "You don't lose the Revenant. You delay it." The captain stared at him for a long moment, then turned to the crew. "Double security on every deck. No signals. No transmissions." The crew scattered to obey, but the tension lingered like a fog. Hours passed. The ship drifted silently among the debris of a long-dead world. Strange, twisted structures floated outside, remnants of something ancient, broken. Elias sat alone in the medbay, staring at his reflection in the dark glass. The human eye looked tired, aged beyond its years. The cybernetic one flickered with faint pulses of code he no longer controlled. He hated it. It wasn't his anymore. It belonged to the program buried inside him. Thalos entered quietly, the door hissing shut behind him. "You should rest," he said. Elias didn't move. "Rest doesn't help. Not with this." He tapped the side of his head. "It talks to me sometimes. The implant. It remembers things I don't want to. Then maybe it remembers things we need," Thalos said. Elias turned to him, expression unreadable. "You don't trust me. Should I?" "No," Elias admitted. "You shouldn't." Thalos crossed his arms. "Then tell me the truth. What is the Ark? You said they're after it. Why?" Elias hesitated. The AI's hum filled the silence. "Because the Ark wasn't a myth," he said finally. "It was real. Fae contingency plan. When humanity realized it couldn't win, they built hidden worlds, vaults filled with frozen humans, AI cores, and genetic archives. The plan was to wait until the galaxy forgot us, then rebuild." Thalos frowned. "You mean there could still be humans alive?" "If the systems held," Elias said. "If the power didn't fail. And your implant?" "Coordinates," Elias said softly. "Encrypted data leading to one of the arcs. Arc 7, Project Rebirth. The Revenant was created to make sure no one ever woke them." The captain's scales shimmered faintly under the light. "So the ship that hunted us, its mission was to destroy humanity's last chance." "Or protect it," Elias said darkly. Depends on who's controlling it now. The AI's voice broke in, calm but urgent. Captain, external anomaly detected. Thalos and Elias exchanged a glance and hurried to the bridge. Outside, a faint glow pulsed from the debris field. Something metallic, cylindrical, half buried in drifting rock. Looks like a station, Nara said. Old, no signals, no power. Elias leaned forward. Magnify. The image sharpened, revealing markings on the metal surface, faded letters barely visible through the dust. It read, Soul Defense, Arc 7 Access Node. Elias's heart skipped a beat. That's it, he whispered. That's one of the relays. The Arc must be nearby. You're certain? Thalos asked. Yes. Elias turned to him, eyes intense. But if I can find it, so can they. We can't land in our condition, Nara warned. The engines are unstable. Then we use the shuttle, Elias said. Small, hard to detect. I can interface with the node directly. You're not going alone, Thalos said. You're too valuable and too dangerous. Elias almost smiled. You finally believe I'm valuable? Thalos didn't answer. Minutes later, the shuttle disengaged from the docking bay, descending through a cloud of dust and debris toward the ruined station. Inside, Elias and Thalos sat in silence, the hum of the engines their only companion. The station came into view, a hollow shell of metal torn by centuries of neglect. When they docked, the airlock creaked open with a hiss of frozen air. Elias stepped out first, boots echoing against the floor. His suit light cut through the darkness, illuminating walls covered in frost and old human symbols. This place, he whispered. There's been here for centuries. Thalos followed, his hand near his sidearm. Stay alert. They moved through the corridors until they reached a control chamber. In the center stood a console covered in dust. Elias wiped it clean, revealing an interface that recognized him instantly. Identity confirmed, it said in a voice from another age. Commander Elias Ward, Salt Defense Authorization Level Omega. The systems came alive, lights flickering on across the station. Holograms filled the air, maps, data streams, mission logs. One message began to play. A woman's face, human, speaking through static. If you're hearing this, Elias, it means we failed. The Ark is still hidden. Don't let them find it. Don't let them erase us. The hologram faded. Elias's hands trembled. That was Admiral Saren Ward, he said quietly. My sister. Thalos looked at him. Your sister built this place? She led the Ark program, Elias said. And now she's asking me to finish it. Before Thalos could reply, the station shook violently. The lights flickered, and the AI's voice crackled through the comms. Warning! Energy spike detected. Cloaked vessel emerging from FTL. Thalos cursed. They found us. Elias's eyes flashed blue. Then we finish this now. He slammed his hand on the console, transferring the Ark's coordinates into the shuttle's memory core. Go! Thalos shouted. They sprinted through the collapsing corridor as debris rained from the ceiling. Behind them, the station began to rupture under weapons fire from the Revenant frigate above. The shuttle launched just as the explosion tore through the access node, flames lighting the void. We've got the data, Elias said, breathing hard. But now they know exactly where we're going. Thalos glanced at him grimly. Then we'd better get there first. The Varelian star drifted into the orbit of a dying red dwarf, its light casting a blood-colored glow across the ship's hull. Beneath them spun a barren planet, scarred and silent, its surface covered with endless dust storms. Yet deep beneath the sand, the scanners pulsed with readings, structures, energy signatures, faint traces of life support. Elias stood at the bridge, eyes locked on the monitor. That's it, he said quietly. Arc 7. Captain Thalos narrowed his eyes. That place doesn't look alive. It's not supposed to be, Elias replied. It's buried for a reason. The Ark wasn't meant to be found by anyone but us. And yet, Keth muttered, it's sending out signals now. You sure this isn't a trap? Elias didn't answer. His cybernetic eye flickered as he accessed the data they stole from the relay. Coordinates aligned perfectly. Prepare landing sequence, he said. We're going down. The ship entered the thin atmosphere, metal groaning under the stress. The red sky flashed with lightning, sandstorms rising like waves. When they touched down, visibility dropped to almost nothing. The world was a graveyard, rusted towers half buried in dust, craters where cities once stood. Elias stepped out first, his boots sinking into the sand. "This place used to be a colony," he murmured. "One of the last, before it fell." Thalos followed, his armor clicking as he scanned the surroundings. Fallen colonies, dead worlds, extinct species. And yet somehow humans keep showing up where they shouldn't. "Because we don't die easily," Elias said. His voice carried the weight of centuries. They moved toward a large fissure in the ground. Beneath it, scanners showed a massive chamber, metallic, ancient, still humming with weak power. Using the ship's excavator drones, they uncovered a sealed hatch. The AI confirmed human design. "Opening it," Elias said. The doors split apart with a long metallic groan, releasing a cloud of frost and old air. Inside, the passage glowed faintly with blue emergency lights that had somehow lasted 200 years. They descended into the darkness, the walls lined with human symbols and faded words. Project Rebirth. The deeper they went, the warmer it became. The hum of machinery grew louder. Finally, they entered a vast chamber and stopped. Thousands of pods stretched out in all directions, each one holding a sleeping human. Pale faces behind glass, frozen in time. Elias's breath caught. They survived. Thalos stepped forward slowly, awe softening his voice. "So you're telling me there are thousands of them here?" "More," Elias whispered. "Tens of thousands." He approached a central console and brushed off the dust. The system flickered to life, reacting to his presence. "Biometric signature confirmed," said a soft human voice. "Welcome back, Commander Elias Ward." A hologram appeared above the console, a woman with sharp eyes and dark hair. Elias froze. "Saren." The hologram smiled faintly. "If you're seeing this, Elias, then you made it. The Ark is intact, but power is failing. You must wake them before the core collapses. Humanity's survival depends on it." The hologram ended. For a moment, Elias stood there, unable to move. The crew watched in silence, sensing his pain. "She was your sister," Thalos said quietly. "She led the Ark program. She believed we could rebuild after the war." Elias nodded. "She was right." He began typing commands into the console. "I can start the reactivation process manually." "Wait," Nara said. "We don't know what will happen. The system's ancient. It could fail or worse, trigger defenses." "We don't have time," Elias said. "The core is decaying. If we wait, they all die in their sleep." Thalos stepped forward. "Do it." Elias entered the final code. The lights flickered. Across the chamber, the pods began to hum, frost melting from their surfaces. Then a distant rumble echoed through the tunnels. The AI's voice crackled through their comms. "Warning. Incoming vessel detected, matching previous hostile signature." "They found us," Keth said, panic rising. Thalos turned to Elias. "How fast can you wake them?" "Not fast enough," Elias said. "It takes hours." The ground trembled as explosions struck the surface. Dust fell from the ceiling. "They're breaching the outer layer," shouted Nara. Elias clenched his fists. "Then we hold them off." Thalos raised his blaster rifle. "You're not a soldier anymore, human." Elias looked at him, eyes cold. "I never stopped being one." They rushed to the surface, the corridors shaking as the revenant troops descended from the black frigate. They were human in form but wrong, half metal, half flesh, eyes burning red with machine light. Elias recognized them. "Hybrids," he muttered. "They used to be us." "They don't look friendly," Thalos said, aiming his weapon. The hybrids opened fire, plasma bolts slicing through the dust. The air filled with chaos. Elias dove behind a metal pillar, returning fire with precision. He moved with the speed of someone who had done this 1,000 times before. Keth's explosives detonated along the ridge, taking down several attackers, but more kept coming. Over the comms, the AI warned, "Multiple signatures approaching. Estimated contact with main chamber in 3 minutes." "We can't hold them that long," Nara shouted. Elias gritted his teeth. "Yes, we can." He tapped his temple, activating the last piece of tech embedded in his brain, a failsafe he had sworn never to use. His cybernetic eye flared bright blue. The air around him shimmered with energy. "What are you doing?" Thalos yelled. "Giving them something to remember," Elias said. He linked his neural implant to the Ark's defense grid. Power surged through him, pain flashing like lightning across his mind. The dormant turrets inside the base came to life, firing at the invading hybrids. The ground shook under the assault. "Elias, stop!" Nara screamed. "You're overloading your system." "I know," he said through clenched teeth. Just keep them away from the pods. His vision blurred, circuits overheating inside his skull, but he didn't stop. Energy rippled through the chamber, a storm of light and fire. One by one, the hybrids fell. Then silence. Elias collapsed to his knees, smoke rising from his implants. Thalos rushed forward, catching him before he hit the ground. It's done, Thalos said. They're gone. Elias's breathing was shallow, his voice weak. The humans? They'll wake soon. Promise me you'll protect them. I will, Thalos said firmly. Elias smiled faintly. Then maybe we didn't die after all. His cybernetic eye flickered once, then went dark. As the Ark's systems stabilized, the pods began to open. One by one, new voices filled the air, the first human breaths in 2 centuries. Hand far above, the wreckage of the Revenant frigate drifted silently through the crimson sky, a reminder that even in the darkest corners of the galaxy, humanity refused to vanish. The Ark trembled as the first of the cryopods opened. Steam hissed into the air, and pale figures stepped out, coughing, gasping, their eyes adjusting to the dim blue light. The humans had awakened after 2 centuries of silence. Captain Thalos watched from the upper walkway, his scales reflecting the faint glow of the reactivation lights. Below him, chaos and wonder mixed together. Men and women struggling to stand, med drones scanning them, voices whispering in disbelief. Nara moved through the crowd, checking vitals, stabilizing systems. They're weak but alive, she said. Thousands of them. Thalos glanced at Elias's still body lying near the central console. The human's chest rose faintly, shallow but steady. The AI's voice echoed softly through the chamber. Vital signs critical, neural implant severely damaged, recovery uncertain. Thalos knelt beside him, his expression unreadable. You did it, human. You brought your people back. Elias stirred, his lips barely moving. Not yet. His eyes flickered open, dim light glowing faintly in his cybernetic implant. The Ark isn't safe. The Revenant will send more. Thalos frowned. We destroyed their ship. That was just one, Elias rasped. They're never alone. They'll trace the signal here. We have hours, maybe less. Nara looked around at the awakening humans, frightened, confused, barely able to walk. They can't fight, not like this. They don't have to, Elias said. He pushed himself up with trembling arms, every movement sending pain through his system. The Ark has defenses, automated systems, drones, rail batteries, but they're offline. I can restart them manually from the core. You'll kill yourself, Thalos warned. Then it'll be worth it, Elias replied, forcing a weak grin. Besides, I've been dead for 200 years already. Before Thalos could stop him, he staggered toward the core chamber. The massive power conduit pulsed faintly, deep beneath the Ark's floor. Sparks flickered in the dark as ancient systems hummed awake. The holographic projection of Saren appeared again, static running through her face. Elias, she said softly. You came back. He stopped, staring at the flickering image. You're just an echo, he whispered, but I needed to hear your voice. You know what must be done, she said. The Ark was never meant to stay hidden. It was meant to rise again. The hologram faded as the power levels climbed. Thalos and Nara joined him in the core room. The humans are gathering near the surface, Nara reported. They need guidance, leadership. They're terrified. Elias nodded, gripping the console. Then they'll get it. He typed rapidly, hands shaking. Across the Ark, energy flowed through ancient circuits. Lights blazed to life. The sleeping fortress was waking. Massive cannons emerged from the planet's crust, railguns locking into position, defense grids shimmering around the colony. The AI announced, Ark 7 defensive protocol active. Hostile detection radius expanded. How long do we have? Thalos asked. Unknown, the AI replied, but multiple jump signatures detected near the outer orbit. They're here, Elias said grimly. In orbit, dark shapes emerged from the void. Sleek, black warships, their hulls bearing the same faded sun emblem as the one before. Dozens of them. That's a fleet, Nara whispered. We can't take that many. Maybe not, Elias said, but we can make them remember who we were. The planet's cannons opened fire. Bolts of plasma tore through the void, ripping apart the leading vessels. The Revenant fleet responded instantly, launching drones and bombardment fire. The surface shook as explosions lit up the horizon. "Shields holding," the AI said, "but power drain accelerating." On the ground, chaos erupted as humans scrambled for shelter. Thalos ordered the Varelian crew to assist, directing evac zones and shuttles. "Get them underground," he shouted. "Protect the civilians." Elias, however, didn't move from the console. His cybernetic systems linked directly to the Ark's network, his consciousness spreading across the grid. Through him, the ancient defense AI merged with human instinct. He could see everything: the orbiting ships, the ground forces, the energy flow between cores. His voice echoed through the comms. "I can hold them back, but I need more power. Reroute the auxiliary reactors." "That'll overload the core," Nara warned. "I know," Elias said, his tone steady. "If it collapses, the Ark dies, but if we don't, humanity does. I'm not letting them erase us again." The battle raged above. The Revenant ships unleashed a swarm of drones, burning through the atmosphere like falling stars. The Ark's railguns intercepted some, but not all. Impact waves tore through the colony. Thalos watched from the command post as entire towers crumbled. "Elias!" he shouted through the comm. "We're losing ground! Hold the line!" Elias's voice was fierce, defiant. "I'm almost there." Inside the core chamber, sparks flew as the overload began. His body convulsed, energy surging through every nerve. The system screamed warnings, but he ignored them. Through his neural link, he could feel the entire planet breathing, every circuit, every weapon, every pulse of human life. And for the first time in centuries, he felt hope. "This is for Earth," he whispered. The energy wave burst outward. In orbit, the Revenant fleet was caught in a blinding flash. Every ship, every drone, gone. The explosion expanded like a star, wiping the invaders from the sky. When the light faded, silence fell. On the surface, the survivors watched as the storm clouds parted, and the red light of the dwarf sun shone through. Thalos stumbled into the core chamber, smoke and dust filling the air. "Elias!" he shouted. The man was still standing, his hand on the console, motionless. His cybernetic eye was dark. For a moment, Thalos thought he was gone, but then faintly, Elias exhaled. "Did we win?" Thalos nodded. "You did." Elias smiled weakly. "Then humanity's awake." His body gave out, collapsing against the console. Nara rushed in, scanning him. "He's alive, but barely. Neural damage critical." "Keep him alive," Thalos ordered. "He deserves to see what he saved." Above them, the Ark system stabilized. Thousands of humans now stood beneath the open sky, watching the fading glow of the destroyed fleet. For the first time in centuries, their species was free. Thalos looked up at the crimson clouds and murmured, "The galaxy will remember this day." And far beyond the dying sun, in the darkness between stars, something ancient stirred, because the awakening of humanity had not gone unnoticed.